Now what they do is sometimes they give you mounting screws. These screws are kind of small. They're not very long, are they? And when I look at this box where I have to attach this, the box is kind of inset. It's not flush with the outside of the sheetrock. It's about a quarter, 3/8 almost pushed in. That's going to take 3/8 of this little screw out of business, and I have to push it into this hole another 1/4 inch, which tells me I'm hardly going to have any holding power on this screw. And I'm deciding not to use those screws. And you know what works really good for that is drywall screws. The coarse threaded drywall screws that I usually carry in these containers, and usually I'll have 1.25 inches, 1 5/8. Here's some 1 5/8. See, 2 inch, 2.5, 3 inch. I use those for all kinds of things, and sometimes I can get by with 1.25 screws up there, but no, I'm going to use the 1 5/8 because that's inset a little bit, right? And yeah, I've used sheetrock drywall screws for all kinds of applications with something such as this, okay? And they work fine. Plastic, these drywall screws right into plastic boxes. They don't mess up the boxes or anything. They just drive right on in. Okay, so I'm gonna double check, make sure that's vertical before I get it screwed on there. I'm gonna look at that. Sure enough, these need to be facing up. Okay, and they give you lots of slots on that, on whether or not your box is crooked or if your box has been installed a different way in the mounting screws on the sides. As a matter of fact, the last light fixture that I installed, the screws were horizontal, not vertical. In that box, for some reason, they weren't vertical, the mounting box screws. Okay, and so they give you different ways to do that. Okay, so I am just gonna tighten these up, and I just do everything by hand. I don't use your battery operated drill for this. All right, you just don't need it, because I'm gonna have to suck this in tight carefully and line it up. Last thing you want is over tightening something and breaking your plastic box, or driving these screws in and stripping your threads out, because it's just a plastic box. Now if that was a metal box, of course those other screws I probably would use, because then you've got threads in there. But I don't have a metal box, and if it was a metal box, these drywall screws wouldn't really fit. Okay, but they fit in plastic boxes just fine. Okay, so now I'm going to have to line that up and eyeball it. If I had my level, I could put my level on the side of that. In fact, I do have a level. I guess I could check that before I snug those up all the way. I'm going to grab my level just for kicks. I'm going to let the camera roll here. I have a little torpedo level. I also have a tall level here. See, I can kind of look on that and see, and son of a gun, I'm slightly off, and the top needs to go over to the left just a little bit. I guess I've got to loosen up both screws, just barely. That was close. And it's funny too, this level has been dropped a few times. Magnetic on the side. I used to use it for metal stud framing. Oh, you know what? I went the wrong way. Silly weenie. And it goes you know, how good is plumb is only as good as a perfectly plumb level. If you've dropped your level who knows how many times, you might find that your level is not really working 100%, you know? So that could be an issue too. I don't know if this level is perfectly plumb when it's supposed to be or not. And it's odd that I don't really, you know, there is a way to fix your levels, but I'm not sure how to do it exactly, because see, each level bubble has screws on it. See these screws right here? And here's the middle. Here's the middle one. See, there's screws on there. But you really got to know what you're doing. If you take a level off to try to recalibrate it, I can't do it. If you can do it, have at it. Okay? So yeah, I think you would have to get a plumb bob and do something funky to make sure. Yeah, like I say, I don't even want to go there. Okay, so get that plumb, or get it and eyeball it, because you want it as straight as you can, because those side pieces are going out. And incidentally, on those side pieces, after you tighten it all up, you may want to stand back and look at it and turn your light on and check it all out and make sure that you feel comfortable with how it's looking on the wall. And if you're not, then you may have to make sure that your mounting screws are adjusted properly and tightened up properly and all that kind of stuff. And if so, you may have to pull that apart if you want to adjust your backing plate. That's why it's important on this particular type of light fixture. Get your backing plate straight where you want it and tighten her down. Okay, so let's look at this for a minute. Here's the back. Here's the back side. A small stranded ground wire, the white wire, and the black wire. This is stranded wire. So what I like to do is take the ends. Let's get you. I like to take the ends and just twist it together. And see, it's not coming out very far. I might want to strip the end of that off ever so little. I don't know why they don't strip those a little bit further. I'm gonna get down here on the ground, right here. I don't want to do it on the ladder because I don't want to scratch that up. And I'm just gonna strip the end off a little bit. And I usually cut it just a couple places different, and then I go to a bigger hole and strip it off to make sure that I didn't cut off too many or use too small of a hole and rip off, you know, half of your stranded wire, let's say. Okay. You can see on the black and the white wire, I'm going to kind of wrap that around the other wire before I put the wire nut on. And because those are small, they give you orange wire nuts with it. Here's the 3 wire nuts, orange. And the orange will be fine because I'm going from this small strand and then I'm only hooking up to 1 wire each. If I was trying to, let's say those wires that were coming out of there were on that wire nut, and if that wire nut was sticking out of the wall by 4 or 5 inches, I could have taken the big wire nut off and then stripped this back like this and wrapped that around with the red wire nuts because it was connecting two other wires. Now I could use yellow wire nuts because I'm using 12 gauge wire, but if that was 14 gauge wire, the yellow wire nut might have a hard time tightening up on just one 14 gauge wire and this stranded wire. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that's all set up for that. Now this ground wire is, I'm going to connect it to the other ground wire coming out of the box. But you remember we got that ground screw. We got that ground screw up there. And you see that ground screw? I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. I've got to, I think my battery's almost dead. I'm going to change the battery and then we're going to talk about that ground screw. See how we're going to connect all this up, because I want to take the wire that's coming from the box and I want to hook it to that ground screw, and I want to get it connected to the that small stranded wire that's coming from the light fixture box. How are we going to do that?